So one of the challenges of trading, especially if you have a young family, is that sometimes you have to trade at unsociable hours, sometimes at unsociable days and different times of the year. And summer is the peak for all sports, but also that's obviously when you want to go on holiday. And what follows on this video is a story of what I did one summer. Please like or dislike the video or leave a comment below. That will allow me to produce better videos and more of them in the future. So yeah, there's a balancing act to be had with trading. When I first started trading, I wanted to earn as much money as I possibly could as quickly as possible, because then I could actually relax and not have to think about those sort of things. And, that's how things turned out. But the problem that I had for a large number of years is that, all of the best trading markets came around during school holidays. And obviously, it would be unfair on the children if I didn't go on holiday. So what I used to do was try and book places where I could actively trade from. Now, the problem that you have with that is, that is a difficult balancing act to be had. Finding somewhere where you can stay that also has great internet and Sky. It generally doesn't exist. And certainly when I first started, that wasn't possible. Nowadays, thankfully, it's a lot easier because you can survive with a very light, thin, powerful laptop. Internet connectivity is just 10 million times better than it used to be, and you get live video. But when I first started trading and when I was doing trading seriously, even until fairly recently, all of that was a problem. The internet connection generally wasn't particularly good, couldn't get live pictures, and so on and so forth. So when I used to travel, I used to start planning it months in advance, and I would try and find a location that I wanted to go on holiday, where there were access to beaches and all of those sort of things. And also where I could get, live pictures or some way, I had to try and fit all of the things in. It needed decent internet connection, I needed to be able to get hold of pictures somehow. And I remember the first time that I tried it, I actually ended up just phoning somebody back in the UK and asking them to talk me through what was happening on the race course. That was how extreme it got. But as time progressed, I got better and better, and I would phone up places and say, can you do a speed test for me? Do you have access to this? Do you have access to that? Where can I do this? Blah, 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 and so on and so forth. The problem I always found with hotels was that generally the internet was shared amongst 4,000 people, and you generally wouldn't get a good connection. So that was no good, really. So what I tended to do was to start renting houses and other places like that, because then you could speak to the owners, you could tell them what your requirements were, and they would generally accommodate you. And if they were living in the house, then you would expect them to have things like decent internet. Perhaps they would have Sky and various other things where I could watch live pictures. But going back a few years, I always would have a backup plan just in case things didn't work out. And so I actually used to carry around a satellite dish with me. And I would sit down at home the week before we went away, test all the equipment, make sure it was aligned, and so on and so forth. And then pack that back up and take it with me. So incredibly, if I rented a house that had no Sky, I would take the dish with me and all the equipment that went with it. And then I would just wire that all up, configure it at the location in which I was at, and then I would feel completely happy that I had a really good trading signal. Now, of course, you don't need to do that now because live video is more than adequate. There's no need to take a dish with you any longer, but that's the length at which I used to go to. So taking the dish with me was a way of solving that particular problem. And the internet, you could always get somebody to run a speed test or something, but you would always tend to get to the location that you're at and then test the internet. It would be the first thing you would do. And if there was a problem, then you'd have to find a way out of it. Maybe you'd use a data card, or maybe you'd find a location nearby that had decent internet. But generally you would solve those problems before you arrived. So if we wind ourselves back to 2010, I was still carrying around a satellite dish with me as recently as 2010. And I've managed to find this absolutely beautiful place called Spring Cottage. And Spring Cottage had a lovely, wonderful garden that led off towards the sea. You had beautiful sea views from there, but no mobile phone signal. So there was an element of risk in terms of picking that particular location. But they did have internet, and the internet connection was pretty decent. So we headed off to Spring Cottage. took all the kids with us. And the way that the day would work would be, in the morning, of course, I'm completely free. I only had to get back to my desk at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which was when the racing started. So we'd have all morning to do whatever we wanted. We'd have a nice lunch, and then we'd decamp back, or I would decamp. We'd take 2 cars, and I would end up driving back and working for the afternoon, and sometimes into the evening, depending upon what was on and what opportunities I thought were around. But at the end of the evening, we'd generally have a great big barbecue and invite a few friends around and stuff like that, and just have a general laugh. But it actually worked pretty well. And the reason that it worked pretty well is because of the money that I was making from trading. So it was actually joined at the hip. If I could trade, we could afford a much better place and we'd have a better holiday, but I had to trade. So it was a sort of circular feedback loop, basically, because if I didn't trade, I wouldn't earn the money, and therefore I wouldn't feel I could justify somewhere as nice as we would generally rent. However, on this particular occasion, it was a beautiful cottage. Everything worked out pretty much as I expected. I was able to set up the satellite dish on a flat roof and get a signal, and they had a little study in the cottage as well. And I basically shuffled some furniture around, and you can see all the wires trailing off to the right there, off to the equipment, and so on and so forth. You can see also, if you look closely at the image of the desk that I was trading from, that I've actually got a little monitor. So obviously lumping a television around or relying upon having a TV feed or nicking it from the kids wasn't a viable option. So I used to carry around a little LCD monitor and plug the satellite into there and watch pictures on there. So yeah, those are the extremes that I used to go to. But was it worth it? Yes, absolutely, definitely it was. Because if you look at the P&L from just one day back in 2010, you can see that all of the hassle in terms of finding the location, making sure they had internet, taking the satellite dish with me, and all of those things, sure as hell paid off. So it was definitely worth the effort of doing. And over time, you sort of slip into that mode. So, one of my sort of dreams, for want of a better word, when I first started trading, was the independence that it gave you, the ability to work from anywhere. And I've completely exploited that over the years. And I don't talk about it all of the time, but very often I will take the opportunity to move to a different location and trade from there. Why? Because you can. And some of my best experiences so far in everything that I've done has been trading from all manner of different locations. And it's great to know that you can earn a living that way, and that's always what I wanted to try and do. So yeah, as time has gone on, I'm a bit more relaxed about those sort of things now. I feel I can take time off without the fact that I'm missing too much. Simply because I've been going for so long and know that the opportunity is there and will most likely always be there. But also, isn't so important to me now as it was when I was trying to master everything that I was doing. I feel pretty comfortable at what I've managed to achieve, and I can adopt a more relaxed approach to these sort of things now. But I thought I'd share that story with you. Being this time of year, school holidays are about to come up, and that's typically what I'd do during the school holidays. I would take all my equipment with me and start trading from another location, but it would take a bit of time and effort to do. But generally, it was a really interesting, enlivening, and great experience for me. The opportunity to trade from somewhere completely new, totally different from where I normally trade, but also to have a great holiday at the same time. So yeah, if you're going on holidays this year, I'm not suggesting you do that for a moment if you don't want to, but it certainly is an opportunity that you get only with trading. If you're interested in learning more about BetAngel, why not visit betangel.com today and download a free trial.